My name is Mindy, 68 years old, and the proud owner of a luxury hotel chain I built from nothing. For 40 years I scrubbed toilets, made beds, and worked my way to the top. Last winter, I invited my son Jason and his wife Amanda to my newest resort for a family vacation. Little did Amanda know when she loudly announced, "Don't talk to the old woman. She's just the cleaning lady," that she was about to learn a painful lesson about respect. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you're watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button for more stories about standing up for yourself. I grew up in a tiny town outside Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in the 1950s. My parents owned a small roadside motel with 12 rooms that they operated themselves. From age 10, I helped change sheets, sweep floors, and check in guests. The motel barely kept us afloat, but I learned the value of hard work and hospitality from watching my father greet every guest like family no matter how tired he was. When I turned 18, I was determined to make something bigger of myself. I worked 3 jobs simultaneously: waitressing in the morning, receptionist work in the afternoon and night, auditing at a local hotel, all while putting myself through business school. Those were grueling years, but I had a vision of creating something special in the hospitality world. During my second year of college, I met Thomas at the hotel where I worked nights. He was studying architecture and stayed up late sketching building designs in the lobby because his roommate played music too loudly for him to concentrate. We bonded over our shared dream of creating beautiful spaces for people to enjoy. By graduation, we were engaged and planning our future together. Getting started wasn't easy. This was the 1970s, and banks weren't eager to loan money to a young woman with big ideas. I still remember the banker who told me, "Honey, why don't you let your husband handle the finances?" I walked out and went to 6 more banks before finding one willing to take a chance on us. In 1980, Thomas and I opened our first small hotel in Colorado, in just 28 rooms, but each one carefully designed with Thomas's architectural eye and my obsession with guest comfort. We lived in a tiny apartment on the property, so we could be available day and night. I cleaned rooms myself when staff called out sick and worked the front desk during busy periods. Year by year, we expanded. One property became 2, then 5, then a whole collection of boutique luxury hotels, known for their personalized service and attention to detail. Thomas designed each one with unique character, reflecting the local environment and culture. I focused on the guest experience training staff to anticipate needs before guests even realized they had them. 10 years ago, Thomas died after a brutal battle with pancreatic cancer. I lost my husband, my best friend, and my business partner all at once. The only thing that kept me going was our son Jason and the hotel empire we had built together. I threw myself into work, expanding to international locations and growing our brand even further. Jason was always the light of my life. As a single child, he received all the love and attention Thomas and I could give. We made sure he understood the value of hard work, but I also wanted him to have opportunities I never had. I sent him to the best schools, hired tutors when he struggled with math, and celebrated every small achievement. When Jason got accepted to an Ivy League university, I cried tears of joy. All those nights I spent working late and missing his soccer games had been worth it. He graduated with honors and went into finance, working for a prestigious investment firm. I was so proud of him, even though I secretly hoped he might join the family business one day. 3 years ago, Jason met Amanda at a charity gala I had organized to raise money for hospitality scholarships. She was there as a social media influencer invited to promote the event to her followers. Amanda was undeniably beautiful, with perfectly styled blonde hair and a camera-ready smile. She specialized in luxury lifestyle content, exotic vacations, designer clothing, and high-end restaurants. Jason was smitten immediately. I had my reservations from the beginning. When Amanda talked, it was always about appearances, followers, and status. She seemed to evaluate everything and everyone based on their monetary value or social clout. But Jason was happier than I had seen him since his father died, so I welcomed her into our family with open arms. Besides, I was hoping for grandchildren soon, and Amanda might be my only chance. Despite owning a successful hotel chain, I never lost my hands-on approach to management. At least once a month, I would visit one of my properties unannounced, sometimes helping housekeeping or working the front desk. My employees called it my undercover boss routine, but for me it was about staying connected to the heart of the business. How could I make decisions about room amenities if I never made a bed? How could I set front desk policies if I never checked in a guest? When I decided to invite Jason and Amanda to my newest property in Aspen for a family vacation, I deliberately chose not to inform the staff I was coming. I wanted to experience the hotel as a regular guest would and spend quality time with my son and daughter-in-law away from the pressures of work. I hoped that a week in the mountains might help Amanda and I find some common ground. Maybe if she saw me outside the context of Jason's mother, we could build a genuine relationship. I had no idea that this decision would lead to one of the most painful moments of my life, but also one of the most important. We arrived at the mountain resort on a Tuesday afternoon in February. Snow was falling gently, coating the pine trees around the property with a pristine white blanket. The lobby fire was roaring and the staff was efficiently checking in guests with warm smiles and offers of hot cocoa. I felt a surge of pride seeing the operation running so smoothly without my oversight. The receptionist Claire was new since my last visit, but handled our check-in professionally. I deliberately used my maiden name on the reservation to avoid special treatment. We were assigned the presidential suite, which I had quietly arranged in advance for Jason and Amanda, while I took a standard room down the hall. I wanted them to have the full luxury experience. Within minutes of entering the suite, Amanda found reasons to complain. The temperature was too cold. The complimentary champagne wasn't her preferred brand. The view, a stunning panorama of snow-capped mountains, was blocked by too many trees. "This is supposed to be a 5-star hotel," she muttered while inspecting the bathroom. "The shower products aren't even the premium line." Jason, to my disappointment, didn't gently correct her or express appreciation for the beautiful accommodations. Instead, he called the front desk to request different champagne and additional amenities. This wasn't the son I had raised who once thanked a motel clerk profusely for finding us a room during a blizzard when he was 12. That evening we had dinner at the hotel's signature restaurant. I had always prided myself on our dining offerings, hiring chefs who created memorable experiences rather than just meals. The executive chef at this property had previously worked at a 3-star Michelin restaurant in New York, and I was excited for Jason and Amanda to try his cuisine. Amanda dominated the conversation throughout dinner, barely pausing for breath as she detailed her latest social media statistics and brand partnership negotiations. When I tried to ask Jason about his work or share a funny story about his childhood, Amanda would cut me off with, "That reminds me," and launch into another tale about her influencer friends. What bothered me most was watching how she treated the waitstaff. She snapped her fingers to get attention, never said thank you, and sent back her perfectly cooked steak claiming it was overdone. When the sommelier offered suggestions for wine pairings, she dismissed him with a wave of her hand, saying, "I know what I like." Jason noticed my discomfort and gave me an apologetic smile, but he didn't intervene. Later, when I gently mentioned Amanda's behavior, he shrugged it off. "That's just how people in her industry act. It's expected." The next morning at breakfast, Amanda sent her avocado toast back 3 times, the first because the avocado wasn't ripe enough, then because the bread was too toasted, and finally because the egg on top was too runny. I cringed watching our patient server Maria, whom I'd known for years, maintain her professional smile through it all. I suggested Amanda and I spend the afternoon shopping in town while Jason went skiing. I thought it might be a chance for us to bond. She initially agreed, but spent the entire time on her phone taking selfies in front of stores and calling a friend to complain about the limited designer options in this backwater ski town. When I tried to show her a beautiful handcrafted jewelry store I'd discovered years ago, she glanced inside and declared it too artsy and old-fashioned. That evening, while Amanda was getting ready for dinner, I overheard her on the phone in the suite bedroom. "His mother is so annoying," she was saying. "She keeps trying to show me these quaint little shops like I'm interested in local crafts. And you should see what she's wearing, these outdated sweaters and practical boots. No style whatsoever." I quietly backed away, my cheeks burning with embarrassment. I had thought my cashmere sweaters and comfortable walking boots were perfectly appropriate for a mountain vacation. At 68, I wasn't trying to dress like a fashion influencer, but I had always taken pride in my classic quality wardrobe. The next day we had planned to meet at the spa for treatments. I arrived on time, but Amanda kept me waiting in the relaxation room for over an hour before texting that she had forgotten and gone to lunch with Jason instead. I ended up getting my massage alone, fighting back tears, as the therapist worked on my tense shoulders. That afternoon, I noticed the housekeeping department seemed unusually busy. Maria, now working a double shift on housekeeping, explained that 2 staff members had called in sick with the flu. Without thinking, I offered to help them catch up on room turnovers. It was something I had done countless times over the years. "Miss Mindy, you don't need to do that," Maria protested, but I insisted. I changed into casual clothes, put on an apron, and spent 2 hours helping the short-staffed team make beds and restock rooms. It felt good to be useful, and the physical work helped me process my hurt feelings about Jason and Amanda. Unfortunately, Amanda saw me in the hallway with the housekeeping cart. Her eyes widened in horror. "What are you doing?" she hissed, pulling me into a corner. "People might think you actually work here. It's so embarrassing." "The staff is short-handed," I explained. "I'm just helping out." "This is why Jason says you never adapted to success," she snapped. "Normal wealthy people don't scrub toilets for fun." That comment stung more than anything else. Had Jason really said that about me? Did he see my willingness to pitch in as some sort of failure to embrace our success? That night I called my friend Eleanor, who had known me since the early days of my business. She had retired from her own company years ago and always offered clear-eyed perspective. "It sounds like this Amanda is a real piece of work," Eleanor said after I recounted the day's events. "But why haven't you told them you own the place? That might earn you some respect from label-obsessed Amanda." "I wanted a genuine connection," I explained. "Not respect because of my position. Besides, I'm still hoping she'll show some redeeming qualities if I give her a chance." Eleanor's silence spoke volumes. "Just promise me you won't let them walk all over you," she finally said. "You built an empire from nothing, Mindy. Don't let anyone make you feel small." I promised, but as I hung up, I wondered if I was being naive. Maybe it was time to reveal my ownership. Maybe then Amanda would see me differently. But something held me back. A lifetime of evaluating people's character told me that anyone who would treat a housekeeper poorly while respecting a hotel owner wasn't someone whose approval I should seek. I decided to give it one more day before making any decisions. I had no idea that the next morning would force my hand in a way I never expected. I woke early the next morning, my mind still troubled by Amanda's comments and Jason's apparent agreement with them. The sun was just peeking over the mountains, painting the snow-covered landscape in shades of pink and gold. Rather than ruminating alone in my room, I decided to start my day productively. I headed to the staff area, where Rachel, the housekeeping manager, was dealing with the continuing staffing shortage. 3 more employees had called in with the flu, and she was frantically rearranging the cleaning schedule. "Let me help you," I offered, and Rachel's relief was palpable. She knew who I was, of course, but was professional enough not to mention it in front of the other staff. "We had a coffee spill in the north corridor," she said. "It's quite a mess. The maintenance team is backed up with a pipe issue in the spa." "I'll take care of it," I assured her, grabbing cleaning supplies and an apron to protect my clothes. The task was simple enough. A guest had dropped a large coffee in the hallway, and it had splashed across the carpet and wall. I spent 30 minutes carefully cleaning the stain, making sure the expensive wallpaper wasn't damaged. As I was finishing up, Claire from the front desk spotted me and looked panicked. "Miss Johnson," she said, using my professional name, "we're having an issue with the reservation system. The manager is on a call with corporate, and I can't reach IT." "I'll come take a look," I offered, following her to the reception area. The computer system was one I had helped develop, and I knew its quirks intimately. I stepped behind the desk and began troubleshooting the issue quickly, finding the problem in the date range settings. I was still behind the reception desk, showing Claire how to reset the system when I heard familiar voices approaching from the direction of the ski shuttle drop-off. Jason and Amanda were returning from their morning on the slopes, their voices carrying across the marble lobby. "I still can't believe they don't have private ski instructors available," Amanda was saying loudly. "What kind of 5-star resort doesn't keep experts on call?" "I'm sure they're just booked up, honey," Jason replied, his tone placating. "We can try again tomorrow." They approached the desk Amanda, apparently wanting to register her complaint formally. She didn't notice me at first, her attention on her phone as she gestured for Jason to handle the interaction. When she finally looked up and saw me behind the counter wearing an apron no less, her expression shifted from surprise to horror to disgust in the span of seconds. "What are you doing back there?" she demanded, as if I'd committed some terrible faux pas. Before I could answer, Claire smiled professionally and said Mrs. Johnson was just helping me with a system issue. "How can I assist you today?" Amanda's face contorted with embarrassment and anger. She looked from Claire to me, and back again, apparently assuming Claire had made a mistake about my identity. Then she did something I will never forget. She raised her hand dismissively in my direction and said loudly enough for everyone in the lobby to hear, "Don't talk to the old woman. She's just the cleaning lady." The words hit me like a physical blow. I felt the blood drain from my face as Claire's eyes widened in shock. "Ma'am, this is actually," Claire began, but Amanda cut her off. "I need to speak with a real employee about the lack of private instructors." Amanda continued, her voice dripping with condescension. "Not the help." What happened next was even more painful. Jason, my son, the boy I had raised to respect everyone regardless of their position, didn't correct his wife. Instead, he laughed, a short, uncomfortable chuckle, but a laugh nonetheless. "Mom always did like playing house," he said to Claire, as if that explained everything. "Even on vacation, she can't help herself." I stood frozen, my hands still on the keyboard, as the weight of their words sank in. Several guests in the lobby had turned to watch the scene unfold, their expressions a mix of curiosity and discomfort. One elderly gentleman shook his head disapprovingly at Amanda. Claire's face had gone pale, and she kept glancing at me apologetically, clearly unsure how to proceed without revealing my identity and embarrassing Jason and Amanda publicly. "I'll let you handle this," I said quietly to Claire, my voice steadier than I felt. "The system should work properly now." Amanda rolled her eyes dramatically. Finally, some actual service. I stepped out from behind the desk, removed the apron, and walked away with as much dignity as I could muster. I could feel tears threatening, but I refused to let them fall in the lobby. I heard Claire begin to explain about the ski instructors, her voice professional, but notably cooler than before. The walk back to my room felt endless. Every step was an effort, my body suddenly heavy with the weight of what had just transpired. Once inside, I locked the door, sat on the edge of the bed, and finally allowed the tears to come. It wasn't just Amanda's words that hurt, though they were cruel enough. It was Jason's reaction, the laugh, the dismissive explanation, the complete failure to stand up for me or recognize the disrespect. When had my son become someone who would treat his mother this way? When had he started seeing my work ethic as something embarrassing, rather than a source of pride? I picked up a framed photo I had brought with me, Jason at his college graduation, his arm around me, both of us beaming with pride. I traced his face with my finger, remembering the boy who once made a Mother's Day card that read, "To the hardest working mom in the world. I want to be just like you someday." What had happened to that boy? And what was I going to do now? An hour later, my phone chimed with a text from Jason: "Dinner at 7 at the steakhouse." No apology, no acknowledgement of what had happened, just an expectation that I would show up and pretend everything was fine. I replied that I had a headache and would stay in my room for the evening. I couldn't face them yet, not without saying something I might regret. I needed time to process my feelings and decide how to address the situation. As I lay on the bed, memories flooded back. Jason, at 5 years old, proudly helping me fold towels in one of our first hotels. Jason at 10, setting up a hotel in our backyard for neighborhood kids, complete with check-in desk and room service cookies and lemonade. Jason at 16, working summer jobs in our properties, learning every department from the ground up. After Thomas died, I had thrown myself into work partly to provide for Jason, ensuring he could stay at his expensive university without worries. I worked 18-hour days expanding the business, while attending his parents' weekends and sports events whenever possible. I had missed some important moments, yes, but I had given him everything I could, both financially and emotionally. Had I somehow failed him anyway? Had my focus on work taught him to value status over character? Or was this all Amanda's influence? Sleep eluded me that night. I tossed and turned, replaying the lobby incident in my mind, thinking of all the things I should have said. Around 3 in the morning, I gave up on sleep altogether and sat by the window watching the snow fall silently over the mountains. By morning, I had made a decision. I would talk to Jason directly without Amanda present. Perhaps if I explained how hurtful their behavior had been, he would understand and make amends. I texted him to meet me for breakfast in my room. He arrived looking slightly sheepish but not particularly remorseful. About yesterday, I began once he had settled into the chair across from me with his coffee. What happened in the lobby was incredibly hurtful. Jason sighed. Mom, Amanda was just joking around. You're being too sensitive. Joking, I repeated, disbelieving. She called me the old woman and just the cleaning lady, in a tone that suggested cleaning was something beneath her, beneath us. She didn't mean it that way, Jason insisted. You have to understand, in Amanda's world, image is everything. Seeing my mother in an apron behind the desk was unexpected. And that justifies public humiliation? I asked quietly. Jason ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so reminiscent of his father that it made my heart ache. Look, maybe, if you dressed more appropriately for your position, these misunderstandings wouldn't happen. His words felt like a second betrayal. Appropriately, you mean I should wear designer clothes and jewelry to breakfast, carry expensive handbags to prove my worth? That's not what I meant, he backpedaled. But his eyes told a different story. He did mean exactly that. The woman you saw playing house built a business that paid for your education, your first apartment, your wedding. I reminded him, my voice trembling slightly. I have never been ashamed of doing whatever work needed doing. I know that, Mom, he said, his tone now condescending. And it's admirable, really. But times change. Amanda and I have a certain lifestyle, certain friends. It's important how we present ourselves. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it and stood up. That's Amanda. I should get back. She wants to go into town for brunch. He leaned down to kiss my cheek as if our conversation had resolved everything. We'll see you at dinner. After he left, I sat in stunned silence. The conversation had gone even worse than I'd feared. Jason wasn't just failing to stand up for me. He actually agreed with Amanda's assessment. In his eyes, I was an embarrassment. Later that morning, as I walked through the hotel garden trying to clear my head, I overheard Amanda's voice from a nearby gazebo. She was on the phone, her voice carrying in the clear mountain air. You won't believe what happened, she was saying, laughing. Jason's mom was pretending to be a hotel maid or something. In the lobby? With an apron, I was so embarrassed I nearly died. I froze behind a large pine tree out of her sight, but able to hear every word. I know, right. The receptionist tried to act like she was helping with something important, but come on. She's just one of those boomers who never learned to enjoy their money. A pause as the person on the other end spoke. 3 more days, Amanda continued with a heavy sigh. I can't believe I have to spend another 3 days with her. Jason says we have to stay the whole week or she'll get upset. As if I care. If cleaning lady Barbie gets her feelings hurt. I walked away quickly, my cheeks burning with a mixture of hurt and anger. The casual cruelty in her voice, the nickname cleaning lady Barbie, the clear disdain, it was all so much worse than I had imagined. Throughout the day, I noticed the hotel staff treating me differently. Not with the usual discreet acknowledgement of my ownership, but with a kind of protective warmth. Word had clearly spread about the incident. Maria brought tea to my room without being asked. The concierge stopped me to show pictures of his new baby, something he knew would cheer me up. Angelo, the head chef, came out of the kitchen when I had a solitary lunch to ask if there was anything he could do. About the situation with my daughter-in-law, I asked, surprised. Angelo's expression was serious. Miss Mindy, every person on this staff would walk through fire for you. Just say the word. His loyalty touched me deeply. I had always tried to create a culture where every employee felt valued, from dishwashers to managers. Apparently, I had succeeded better than I knew. Thank you, Angelo, I said, squeezing his hand. But this is something I need to figure out myself. That afternoon, I escaped to the hotel's small business center to check emails and distract myself with work. As I was responding to a message from our Miami property, a notification popped up on my tablet. Amanda had tagged the hotel in a social media post. Curious and apprehensive, I clicked on it. The post showed Amanda in designer ski wear, posing on the hotel's terrace with the mountains as backdrop. The caption read, "Living the luxury life at Aspen's newest hotspot, though some staff need customer service refreshers, and they really should encourage retirement for older employees. Nobody wants to see grandmas working past their prime awkward senior citizen problems." The disrespect was so blatant, so public, that I actually gasped aloud. Several commenters had responded with laughing emojis or added their own stories about embarrassing older workers. I closed the tablet, my hands shaking. This was beyond personal insult. Amanda was publicly disparaging my hotel and staff based on age, potentially damaging our reputation. And for what social media engagement? As I was processing this latest development, my phone rang. It was Eleanor. "How's the family vacation going?" she asked. Terribly, I admitted, and found myself pouring out the whole story: the lobby incident, Jason's dismissive response, and now Amanda's social media attack. "Oh, Mindy," Eleanor said when I finished. "I'm so sorry. But I have to ask, what are you still doing there? Why are you subjecting yourself to this treatment?" "They're my family," I said weakly. "Are they acting like family?" Eleanor challenged. "Family respects each other. Family stands up for each other." She was right, of course. I had been clinging to an idealized vision of family harmony that clearly didn't exist. "What would Thomas tell you to do right now?" Eleanor asked gently. The question brought fresh tears to my eyes. Thomas had never tolerated disrespect of any kind. He once fired a hotel manager who spoke condescendingly to housekeeping staff. "Character is how you treat people who can do nothing for you," he always said. "He would tell me to stand in my power," I whispered. "Exactly," Eleanor said firmly. "You're Mindy Johnson. You built a hospitality empire from nothing. You've been honored by business magazines and charitable organizations. You've employed thousands of people over the years and treated them all with dignity. Why are you letting these two people make you feel small?" As I hung up the phone, I felt something shift inside me. Eleanor was right. I had spent 2 days absorbing hurt and hoping for apologies that weren't coming. It was time to stop reacting and start acting. My decision crystallized when I walked past Jason and Amanda's suite that evening and heard Amanda's voice through the partially open door. "I've talked to Jason, and we're going to limit visits with his mother to once a year maximum," she was saying, presumably on another phone call. "Preferably somewhere public where she can't embarrass us. I refuse to spend another vacation like this." That was the final straw. In that moment, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I walked straight to the hotel manager's office, my mind made up. Michael had been with my company for 15 years, working his way up from front desk supervisor to managing one of our flagship properties. He looked up in surprise when I entered without knocking. "Miss Johnson, is everything all right?" "No, Michael, it isn't," I said, closing the door behind me. "But it will be. I need your help with something." Over the next hour, I outlined my plan. Michael listened attentively, occasionally making suggestions to refine the details. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair with a slow smile. "It would be my genuine pleasure to assist with this," he said. "The staff will be thrilled to participate." "This isn't about revenge," I clarified. "It's about standing up for myself and for the values this company was built on." "Of course," Michael nodded. "Dignity and respect have always been your guiding principles." After leaving Michael's office, I called Barbara, my longtime friend and business partner. Unlike Eleanor, who knew me personally but wasn't involved in the business, Barbara understood both sides of my life. She had been with me since the third hotel, handling the financial side, while I focused on operations and guest experience. "Am I overreacting?" I asked, after explaining the situation and my planned response. "Is this too dramatic?" Barbara didn't hesitate. "Mindy, if anything, you're underreacting. If this were anyone but your son, you would have put a stop to it immediately." But will this damage my relationship with Jason permanently? I worried. Honey, that relationship is already damaged, Barbara said gently. But not by you. Jason is a grown man who is allowing his wife to publicly disrespect his mother. He needs a wake-up call, and this might be the only way to provide it. Her words reassured me, but as I began preparations that evening, doubts crept in. Was I making a terrible mistake? Would this make the situation worse? Should I just quietly finish the vacation and limit contact afterward? I found myself standing before the portrait of Thomas that hung in my office at the hotel. It had been moved there when the property opened a tradition in all my hotels. "What would you do?" I whispered to his smiling image. Thomas had always been the more confrontational one in our relationship, unafraid of difficult conversations. I was the peacemaker, the one who sought compromise and harmony. But some situations couldn't be compromised on. Some values were too fundamental to negotiate. Respect for all people, regardless of their job or status, was one of those values. I spent the rest of the evening with Michael and the events team, planning a special dinner for the following night. We decided to frame it as a VIP event for select guests and staff, ostensibly to celebrate the hotel's successful first winter season. "Make sure Jason and Amanda receive a special invitation," I instructed the concierge. "Tell them they've been selected as honored guests due to their social media influence. Don't mention my involvement." Next, I worked with our marketing director to prepare a presentation about the hotel's history and philosophy. We selected photos from the construction phase grand opening and notable events over the past year. Interspersed were images from my personal archives, pictures of me working alongside staff meeting with world leaders who had stayed with us receiving industry awards. I also requested photos of every department head and longtime employee be featured prominently. If I was going to make a statement about the dignity of work, I wanted to highlight the people who made our success possible. The final touch was a speech I would deliver myself. I worked on it late into the night, writing and rewriting until every word felt right. This wasn't about humiliating Amanda or even educating her. It was about standing firmly in my own truth and making clear what I valued. Just in case things went badly, I also wrote a letter to Jason expressing my love for him, but also my disappointment in the man he was becoming. I sealed it in an envelope and left it in my desk, hoping I wouldn't need to give it to him. The morning of the event, I woke with a sense of calm determination. I arranged for the hotel's salon team to come to my room. The stylist Gina trimmed and styled my silver hair into a sleek, sophisticated bob. The makeup artist gave me a subtle but polished look that highlighted my cheekbones and brightened my eyes. From my suitcase, I removed the outfit I had packed for a formal dinner I'd expected to attend with Jason and Amanda later in the week. A perfectly tailored black suit with a silk blouse in a rich teal color. I added a statement necklace Thomas had given me for our 30th anniversary and the diamond earrings that had been my mother's. As I dressed, I thought about the journey that had brought me to this moment. From cleaning rooms in my parents' small motel to owning a renowned hotel chain, from a young woman denied loans because of her gender to a business leader invited to speak at economic forums, from a new mother uncertain if she could balance family and career to a widow continuing the vision she had shared with her husband. I had earned the right to be respected, not because of wealth or position, but because I had lived with integrity and treated others with dignity. If my own son and his wife couldn't see that, then perhaps it was time they learned. Looking in the mirror, I barely recognized the confident woman staring back at me. Gone was the hurt, uncertain person of the past 2 days. In her place stood someone who knew her worth and wasn't afraid to claim it. Whatever happened tonight, I would be true to myself and the values that had guided my life. That was all that mattered in the end. The grand ballroom had been transformed for the evening. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over elegantly set tables, adorned with winter floral arrangements. A small stage had been set up at one end with a podium and large screen for the presentation. In the corner, a string quartet played softly as guests began to arrive. From a private room adjacent to the ballroom, I watched through a discreet one-way window as Jason and Amanda entered. Amanda was radiant in a designer gown that probably cost more than some people's monthly salary. Her hair was swept up in an elaborate style, and diamonds glittered at her throat and wrists. Jason looked handsome in a tailored suit, his father's smile evident as he greeted people. They appeared confused, but pleased by their inclusion in the event. I overheard Amanda telling another guest, "They probably recognized me from Instagram. I have over 1 million followers, you know." Michael personally escorted them to their seats at the head table directly facing the stage. Amanda preened at this special treatment, clearly assuming it confirmed her social media importance, if only she knew. At precisely 7:30, Michael approached the podium. The room quieted as he welcomed everyone to the special event. "Tonight we gather to celebrate not just a successful season for our hotel, but the vision and values that make this property, and all hotels in our collection, truly exceptional," he began. "Before we enjoy our meal, we have a short presentation about the remarkable journey of this company and the extraordinary person who created it." The lights dimmed, and the presentation began. It opened with the company logo and then dissolved to a black and white photo of my parents' small motel in Pennsylvania. A series of images followed documenting the growth of the business from that humble beginning to our current portfolio of luxury properties on 3 continents. Then came photos of me throughout the years, breaking ground on new properties, working at the front desk, helping housekeeping during busy periods, meeting with staff. There I was with President Obama when he stayed at our Chicago property, with Oprah Winfrey, at a charity function, accepting the Hospitality Industry Leader Award 5 years ago. From my vantage point, I could see Amanda's expression changing as she watched. Confusion gave way to shock as she began to understand who I really was. She grabbed Jason's arm, whispering frantically. His face had gone pale, his eyes fixed on the screen in horror. The final slide showed a recent photo of me, with the executive team captioned, "Mindy Johnson, founder and CEO, Johnson Luxury Hotel Collection." The room erupted in applause as Michael returned to the podium. And now it is my great privilege to introduce our founder, visionary, and the heart and soul of this company, Miss Mindy Johnson. I took a deep breath and stepped through the door onto the stage. The applause intensified, with many staff members rising to their feet in a standing ovation. I caught glimpses of familiar faces, Maria beaming proudly, Angelo clapping enthusiastically, Claire giving me a subtle thumbs up from her position near the door. As I took my place at the podium, I allowed myself one brief glance at Amanda. Her face had drained of all color, her mouth slightly open in shock. Jason looked like he wanted to disappear into his chair, his expression a mixture of embarrassment and dread. "Thank you all for being here tonight," I began, my voice steady and clear. "When I started this company 40 years ago with my late husband Thomas, we had a simple vision to create spaces where every guest felt welcome, valued, and cared for." I paused, looking around the room. But we quickly realized something important. To create that experience for guests, we first needed to create it for our team members. Every person who works in our hotels, from the maintenance staff to the executive suite, contributes to the magic our guests experience. I gestured to the tables where staff members were seated. In our company, we have always believed that there is no such thing as just a housekeeper or just a dishwasher or just a gardener. Every role is essential. Every person deserves respect. Amanda shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her eyes now fixed on her plate. "I have always believed that character is revealed not by how we treat those we want to impress, but by how we treat those we believe cannot benefit us," I continued. "It's easy to be kind to people with power, money, or influence. The true test is how we behave toward those we perceive as having none of those things." I shared stories of exceptional service from our staff, the housekeeper, who drove 30 miles in a snowstorm to bring a forgotten teddy bear to a distraught child, the maintenance worker, who spent his own time building a ramp for a Placeware 5, and I am. Guest with mobility issues, the dishwasher who noticed a guest's food allergies and alerted the chef to a potential issue. In our industry, we often talk about luxury as if it's defined by thread count or brand names or exclusive access, I said. But true luxury, I believe, is found in how we make people feel. Valued, seen, respected. I looked directly at Amanda for the first time. Some people believe that worth comes from titles or wealth or social status. They measure others by external markers of success rather than by character and contribution. In doing so, they miss the opportunity to connect with remarkable individuals whose experiences and perspectives could enrich their lives immeasurably. Jason was now staring at the floor, his discomfort palpable. Amanda appeared to be fighting tears, her earlier shock now mixed with mortification. I have cleaned toilets and made beds in my hotels, I continued. I have checked in guests during staff shortages and helped in the kitchen during busy holiday weekends. I have never been too proud to do whatever work needed doing, and I have never not for one moment felt diminished by that work. The room was completely silent now, everyone hanging on my words. Tonight, I want to thank every member of our team in every department and at every level. Your dedication, your effort, and your humanity make our success possible. I gestured to Michael, who nodded and pressed a button. The screen behind me filled with photos of our housekeeping staff, each person named and celebrated. I particularly want to thank our housekeeping team led by Rachel, I said, smiling at her. These incredible individuals ensure that every room is perfect for our guests, often working quietly behind the scenes without recognition. I continued recognizing each department by name: maintenance, front desk, kitchen, restaurant, spa, grounds. With each group, I acknowledged Amanda seemed to shrink further into her seat. Before we enjoy our meal together, I have an announcement, I said. Today, I am establishing the Thomas Johnson Staff Appreciation Program, which will provide educational scholarships for our employees and their children, emergency financial assistance when needed, and recognition awards for exceptional service. This news was met with enthusiastic applause and some tears from longtime staff members who had known Thomas. Now I concluded I invite all our staff members here tonight to join us at the tables. This celebration is for you, and I would be honored to share a meal with you. At my signal, additional place settings were brought out, and staff members who had been serving or standing along the walls were invited to sit. Maria was placed directly next to Amanda while Angelo took the seat beside Jason. As I made my way to the head table, I could see Amanda frantically whispering to Jason, clearly wanting to leave. Michael, anticipating this, had positioned himself near their table. Mrs. Porter, he said smoothly, using Amanda's married name. We've prepared a special vegan option for you as requested. The chef would be terribly disappointed if you didn't try it. Trapped by social convention, Amanda forced a tight smile and remained seated, though she looked as if she might be ill. Throughout dinner, staff members shared stories about working with me over the years, times I had pitched in during emergencies, personal kindnesses I had shown, funny incidents from hotel openings. With each anecdote, Amanda's expression grew more stricken as she realized just how beloved I was by the entire team. When the meal concluded, Amanda practically bolted from her seat, dragging Jason toward the exit. I excused myself from the table and intercepted them in the private hallway leading from the ballroom. Leaving so soon, I asked calmly. Amanda turned to me, her face a mask of panic and embarrassment. Mindy, I had no idea. I never would have. You have to understand. I understand perfectly, I replied. You showed me exactly who you are. Not tonight when you're scrambling to save face, but 2 days ago in the lobby when you thought I was just the cleaning lady. It was a misunderstanding, she pleaded. I was just surprised to see you behind the desk in an apron. And that justified public humiliation, I asked, echoing the question I had posed to Jason earlier. Would you have spoken that way to me if you had known I owned the hotel? Her silence was answer enough. Jason finally found his voice. Mom, we're so sorry. I should have said something in the lobby. I was just caught off guard. You laughed, Jason, I said quietly. Your wife insulted me, and you laughed. Tears filled his eyes. I know. I don't know who I've become lately. This isn't me. This isn't how you raised me. No, it isn't, I agreed. Your father would be deeply disappointed by your behavior these past few days. That comment hit him hard. He had always sought his father's approval even after his death. What can we do? He asked desperately. How can we make this right? I took a moment before responding, making sure my decision was final. For now, I think it's best if you cut your vacation short. I've arranged for the corporate jet to take you back to New York tomorrow morning. But Mom, Jason protested, we need to talk about this to work it out. We will, I assured him. But not here, not now. I need some time. Amanda, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly spoke up. You can't do this to me. Do you have any idea what this will do to my reputation if it gets out? I have brand partnerships, sponsorships, and there it was, her true concern. Not the relationship she had damaged, not the hurt she had caused, but her social media image. I suggest you worry less about your brand partnerships and more about your character, I said evenly. Now if you'll excuse me, I have guests to attend to. I turned and walked back toward the ballroom, my head high. Behind me I heard Amanda's panicked whisper, Jason, do something. She's going to ruin me. But there was nothing Jason could do. The truth had been revealed not just to Amanda but to Jason himself, and sometimes truth is the most powerful consequence of all. The house felt unusually quiet when I returned home 3 days later. For the first time in years, I felt the emptiness of living alone. No matter how busy my life was with work and friends, there was always a special place in my heart reserved for family, specifically for Jason. Now that place ached with a pain I hadn't experienced since Thomas died. The loss felt similar in some ways, not final like death, but a grief for what had been and what might never be again. I threw myself into work, spending long hours at the office, reviewing expansion plans and visiting local properties. My executive team noticed the change, but respected my privacy, offering support through their efficient handling of day-to-day operations, so I could focus on larger projects when I needed distraction. Eleanor and Barbara became my lifelines during those first difficult weeks. They took turns checking on me, bringing meals, and simply sitting with me when the silence of my home became too oppressive. Have you heard from Jason? Eleanor asked about 2 weeks after I returned. He's called every day, I admitted. Left voicemails, sent texts, even emails. And you haven't responded, she probed gently. I shook my head. I'm not ready yet. His messages are all about how sorry he is, how embarrassed, how he wants to make it up to me. But there's no real reflection, no understanding of why it hurt so deeply. Barbara, always more direct, offered a different perspective over dinner the following evening. You know, Mindy, sometimes people need time to process their failures before they can truly understand them. Jason might be struggling to face the man he's become. Her words stayed with me, prompting me to consider my own role in Jason's development. Had I somehow contributed to his susceptibility to Amanda's values? In my drive to give him every advantage, had I accidentally taught him that status mattered more than character? Rather than dwelling on these questions alone, I channeled my energy into a new project, a mentorship program for young women in the hospitality industry. I had always informally advised female employees who showed promise, but now I formalized the process, establishing a structured program with regular meetings, educational opportunities, and networking events. Working with these ambitious young women reminded me of my younger self, determined, hardworking, sometimes uncertain, but always persistent. Their gratitude for guidance touched me deeply, and I found purpose in sharing the lessons I had learned through decades in business. I also established a scholarship fund for the children of hotel service workers, housekeepers, maintenance staff, kitchen workers, to help them pursue higher education or vocational training. We named it after Thomas, whose belief in the dignity of all work had shaped our company culture from the beginning. Amanda, meanwhile, continued her social media presence without interruption. She never directly addressed what had happened in Aspen, but I noticed she had stopped tagging our hotel properties in her posts. Occasionally, I would see comments asking why she no longer visited those amazing luxury hotels she used to frequent, but she ignored them. Jason's communications gradually changed in tone. His early messages had been panicked, focused on damage control. Mom, please call me back. Amanda is really sorry. We both are. Let's not let this change our relationship. But as weeks passed without response from me, his messages became more reflective. I've been thinking about Dad a lot lately, one voicemail began. About what he taught me about treating people with respect regardless of their job. I don't know when I started to lose sight of that. 3 months after the Aspen incident, a letter arrived via courier. Unlike the texts and emails, this was handwritten on the stationery Thomas had designed for Jason's 21st birthday. I recognized my son's handwriting immediately, though it seemed more careful than usual, as if each word had been considered before being committed to paper. I poured a glass of wine and settled into my favorite chair before opening it. "Dear Mom," it began. "I've written and rewritten this letter so many times trying to find the right words, but maybe there aren't right words for acknowledging you've become someone you never wanted to be. What happened in Aspen showed me a side of myself I didn't want to see. A man who values appearance over substance, who laughs at cruelty instead of standing against it, who has forgotten the most important lessons his parents taught him. I keep thinking about the summer I worked housekeeping at the Chicago property. How you insisted I experience every department so I would understand and respect what each person contributes. Dad told me something that summer that I've only now remembered. The measure of your character isn't how you treat the CEO, it's how you treat the person cleaning your room. I failed that measure in Aspen. I failed you, Dad's memory, and myself. Amanda and I are separating. This isn't just about what happened with you, though that was the wake-up call I needed. We want different things from life. She values status and appearances above all else. I want to rediscover the values I was raised with. I don't expect your forgiveness right away. I don't deserve it yet, but I hope someday you'll give me the chance to earn back your trust and show you that the son you raised still exists underneath the man I've been lately. With love and deepest regret, Jason." Tears streamed down my face as I finished reading. The letter wasn't perfect, but it was honest in a way his earlier communications hadn't been. He was taking responsibility not just for what happened, but for who he had become. A week later, I invited Jason to meet me for lunch at our first hotel property, now renovated, but still maintained as part of our collection for its sentimental value. He arrived early, waiting nervously in the lobby, where as a child he had played with toy cars while Thomas and I worked. Our reunion was awkward at first, both of us careful with our words, but as the meal progressed, the walls between us gradually lowered. Jason asked about the mentorship program and the scholarship fund, showing genuine interest. I inquired about his work and his plans now that he and Amanda were separated. "I've been thinking about making a career change," he confessed. "Finance never really fulfilled me the way I thought it would." "What are you considering instead?" I asked. He hesitated before answering. "Actually, I've been wondering if there might be a place for me in the family business." "Not in a leadership role," he added quickly. "I haven't earned that. But somewhere I could learn the operation from the ground up the way you and Dad did." The request surprised me, but it also filled me with cautious hope. "We might be able to arrange something," I said, "but there would be conditions." "Name them," he responded earnestly. "You would start at entry level, no special treatment, regular performance reviews like any other employee." He nodded. "I wouldn't want it any other way." We agreed to talk more about the possibility in the coming weeks. Before we parted, I had one more question. "And Amanda? How is she taking the separation?" Jason sighed. "Not well. She's worried about how it will look to her followers. She suggested we stay together for appearances while living separate lives." "And what did you tell her?" "That I'm done living for appearances," he said firmly. "That's her world, not mine." Over the next 6 months, our relationship slowly rebuilt itself on a new foundation of honesty and mutual respect. Jason did join the company, working first in housekeeping and then front desk at our Boston property. His manager reported that he was hardworking, humble, and especially kind to the cleaning staff. Amanda remained absent from my life by mutual understanding. She continued her influencer career, eventually marrying a minor European aristocrat she met at a fashion show. I wished her well, silently from afar, hoping she might someday learn what Jason had. My approach to my own business shifted subtly but significantly. I had always been hands-on, but now I became more public about it, allowing the marketing team to occasionally share photos of me working alongside staff. We implemented a walk-in-their-shoes program where executives spent 1 day monthly working in frontline positions. Ironically, a video made by our staff celebrating this approach went viral, attracting attention from business publications and eventually reaching many of Amanda's followers. The story of the CEO, who worked as a housekeeper, became something of a case study in authentic leadership. The incident in Aspen painful, as it was taught me important lessons about standing in my truth. I had spent so many years being strong for others, for Thomas during his illness, for Jason as a single mother, for my employees as their leader, that I had forgotten to demand the respect I deserved in my personal relationships. My worth was never tied to my title or bank account. It came from the integrity with which I lived my life, the respect I showed to others regardless of their position, and the positive impact I strove to make on those around me. As I approach my 70th birthday, I find myself more at peace than ever before. My relationship with Jason has evolved into an adult friendship based on shared values and mutual respect. The business continues to thrive under leadership that upholds the principles Thomas and I established decades ago, and I have found new purpose in mentoring the next generation of hospitality professionals. Every life contains defining moments that test our character and reveal our true values. That day in the hotel lobby when Amanda dismissed me as just the cleaning lady became one of mine. In choosing to stand up not just for myself, but for the dignity of all work, I rediscovered my own strength and helped my son find his way back to the values that truly matter. Have you ever had a moment where you needed to stand up for yourself or your values, even when it was difficult? How did you handle it? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need a reminder of their own worth. Remember, respect is never determined by your job title or bank account, but by how you treat others and stay true to your values. Thank you for listening to my story, and I wish you the courage to stand in your truth whatever challenges you may face.